Hello everyone, I hope you are fine. Today's presentation is going to be about the monitor model. So let's get started. Introduction. The most remarkable theory which aims to offer an overall explanation for second language acquisition is Krashen's monitor model. This theory has had a great influence on all the aspects of second language research and teaching. Also, Krashen's theory seems to be attractive to many language teachers all over the world. This monitor model is based on 5 hypotheses. The first hypothesis is the acquisition and learning hypothesis. According to Krashen, students have different ways of developing skills, making knowledge, and improving their abilities in a second language. These ways are learning and acquisition. So, let's go deeper and see what's the difference between them in the following chart. Here we go. Acquisition and learning. So we have 4 characteristics or 4 properties to understand what's the difference between acquisition and learning. The first characteristic of acquisition is subconsciousness. That is to say, language acquirers are not aware of the fact that they are acquiring language. As Moroccan students, we have 2 native languages, Arabic and Amazigh language. So if you are Arabic or Amazigh, so you are acquiring. So it's not you are learning, but you are acquiring. Acquisition in this case is not limited to a specific time or space. So you acquire Arabic or Amazigh wherever you are or wherever you go. You acquire language at home, at street, at school, anywhere. Alright? The second property of acquisition is naturally. Once we acquire something, we are not usually aware that anything has happened. The knowledge is stored in our brain just at random. So we do not make efforts. Alright, so it's just we talk with people who we are living with or surrounded by, and we acquire language. The third property of acquisition is non-threatening, meaning that no one is angry because no threatening is taking place. The fourth property of acquisition is fluency. Acquirers can be native-like of their target language. They can be fluent, accurate, and proficient as more as they are exposed to that language. Alright? Moving quickly to the second way of making knowledge, which is opposite to acquisition. So the first characteristic of learning is consciousness. Learning exists particularly in a formal school. This process involves the physical presence of a teacher in a classroom who provide learners with a certain amount of language. Here in this case, learning is limited in time and space. For example, you are a learner of French and you learn 4 hours per week. This is a limited time. Alright? And you learn this language in a school. So this is also a limited space. The second property is unnatural. Learning is unnatural, meaning it does not happen by its own. It needs mutual presence of both students and teachers. It is mainly caused by the teacher. The third characteristic is threatening. A sort of punishment is taking place. For example, your teacher punishes you because you break rules, you didn't do your assignment, and so on and so forth. Alright? So, threatening, meaning a sort of punishment, is gonna take place. The last characteristic of learning, it does not guarantee fluency. Learners are not fluent in second language because they are not exposed to use it in communication all the time. Learners use what they learn only to correct their speech and writing, or to be corrected by the teacher so as to figure out the right form of a rule. The second hypothesis of Krashen's monitor model is the monitor hypothesis. Krashen's second language theory was originally known as the monitor theory, perhaps because the central part of it was the monitor hypothesis. In this hypothesis, learning has only one function, which is a monitor or editor, meaning learning comes into play only to make changes in the form of our utterance. They can happen before we speak, right, or after. It refers to self-correction, means when you speak, you have the chance to correct to yourself either while you are speaking or after you finished. Here we go again. The kinds of monitor users. Over-monitor users is a kind of students or speakers who rarely trust their acquired competence. Thus, they verify every sentence they produce by using their learned competence. This kind of students, they would make sure that every sentence, every word is correct, and then they pronounce it. Under monitor users, a kind of speakers who do not care about correctness, only meaning. They are very talkative and they make more mistakes than other users. This kind of students, what is important for them is conveying meaning. Optimal monitor users, they manage to use the monitor only when it is appropriate, only when there is a need. Optimal monitor users usually give impression that they possess more competence than under monitor users. Another hypothesis is the natural order hypothesis. Krashen has claimed that we acquire language rules in a predictable way. The language features that are easy to state or to learn are not always the first to acquire. Speakers of a given language tend to acquire certain grammatical structures early and others later. For example, you, as an English student, it's normally to learn the present simple and then the present continuous. However, in some countries of this native language, for example, Americans, they learn present continuous and then present simple. Input hypothesis. The comprehensive input hypothesis claims that the acquirer should understand input language that contains structure a bit beyond his current level of competence. Krashen defined the learner's current stage of studying language as A. The next stage of developing language is A+1. In other words, the language which learners are exposed to should be just beyond their current competence. They can understand most of it but still be challenged for them. What do you mean by this? Simply, it means that it's hard for a beginner learner to learn something academic. It does not fit his level. Alright? The effective filter hypothesis. Understanding a message is not enough to assure language acquisition. Not all the input reaches the language acquisition device. The effective filter opens and closes according to our mood. That is, if we are in a pleasant learning environment, more input will reach the language acquisition device. However, if we feel tense or in unsuitable surrounding, our efforts to get input will be fruitless and just in vain. Thank you very much for watching this video, and don't forget to subscribe to be informed by the coming videos.